You settle into stillness as the night sky drapes its velvet cloak above you. Soft pinpricks of starlight drift through the air, and in their glow you feel the surface of the earth, warm yet indifferent to the passing of millennia. Beneath your palms, the ground hums with stories older than any song you know, a slow, patient murmur that reaches down through layers of soil and stone. Here, time is sediment, each grain a small, unbroken fragment of a world that once roared in green forests and shallow seas. You close your eyes and imagine sinking through those layers, drifting past roots and pebbles, past hidden worms and mineral. Vines. You pass through a chapter of sand that once lay on an ancient shore, where tiny shells left impressions like whispered signatures. Below, a hardened mudstone records the hush of a river winding through ferns taller than any tree you have seen. Here, in this dark cradle, the very first stirrings of Tyrannosaurus begin long before the thunder of great feet, before the reign of the tyrant lizard, before bone knew breath and flesh. Each fold of rock holds a secret, a footprint pressed into wet clay, later baked by sun and time. A fragment of tooth, fossilized into unyielding glass. The faint imprint of a claw marking the side of a log. Science calls these trace fossils echoes of movement and life, telling us not what the creature was, but what it did. What patience to survive here, hidden beneath evolving skies. This creature who would one day cast a shadow across a continent, who would stand at the summit of all beasts. Your breath slows as you drift deeper still, arriving at a layer of sandstone, etched with ridges that read like braille beneath your fingertips. This is the world of late Cretaceous Laramedian Island, land of leafy groves and volcanic soils, where tidal plains glimmered with warm light and galaxies of insects filled the air with vibration. Yet here, in the quiet of stone, all of that life is reduced to pattern and pigment, bone turned to mineral, flesh turned to memory. In your mind's eye, you see the first proto-tyrants, small, two-legged hunters, no larger than a deer, stalking through a misted forest. Their feathers shimmer like fallen leaves, rustling in the wind, a sign not of royalty but of gentle beginnings. Over countless seasons, evolution shaped them. Bones grew sturdier, jaws stronger, eyes keener. With each generation, they tipped ever closer toward the form we will one day call Tyrannosaurus. You rise to stand on the surface again, but the world you face has changed. Trees tower above you. Insects hum in a steady drone. Distant thunder shakes the sky. You feel the slow weight of eons pressing on your shoulders. Tectonic shifts, sea level rises, volcanic sighs. The earth itself is alive, pulsing with heat and movement beneath its rocky crust. To listen here is to hear the patient song of transformation. A melody composed in rock and time. You trace a fingertip across a smooth stone slab, feeling the faint ridges of a fossilized bone, the femur of a creature who stood on this very spot so many seasons ago. You imagine its life, waking at dawn to a world of green horizons, muscles coiled for a chase, nostrils flaring at the scent of prey. But there was more to existence than hunger. There was partnership, curiosity, the simple joy of being sunlit flesh in a lush world. You sense it in the grain of this bone, as though the earth itself preserved not only shape but spirit. Scientists call this process taphonomy, the journey a creature takes from living flesh to mineral relic. It is a gentle alchemy. Soft tissues decay, microbes rewrite organic matter, minerals permeate each cell until only the most resilient structures remain. A kind of patience unfolds here too. no hurry to preserve, no urgency to hurry the story along. Time stretches itself, thin, and what emerges is an archive of moments, each sealed beneath a crust of stone. Tonight, you become that archivist. You listen to the echo of the past with reverence, letting each fossil speak in its own quiet way. There is no clamor of battle or despair of extinction in these whispers, the calm recording of existence, the faithful testament of bone and sediment. A fossil is not a trophy but a token of life's persistence, an emblem of how creatures shape their world and are in turn shaped by it. As you lean back into the soft grass, you feel the breeze carry a new fragrance earth after rain. It reminds you that even as you read these echoes of stone, the world around you continues its ancient cycles. Rain will fall, seeds will sprout, leaves will drift to earth and join the layers of tomorrow's archive. You lie between past and future, a bridge of awareness. And in this moment, you are both student and steward. Your heart slows to match the tempo of the fossil song. You become the patient listener, the gentle keeper of stories embedded in rock. You know that one day, you will rise from this place and carry these echoes within you, sharing them with others who sleep beneath the same expansive sky. And as you drift toward dreams, you hold one thought close. The story of Tyrannosaurus does not end here, in cold stone. It continues in every step of scientific inquiry, in every brush you awaken in a whisper of green light, where dawn slowly over a sea of ferns and moss. The air is thick with moisture, carrying the scent of wet earth and new growth. Underfoot, the forest floor cushions each step, its sponge-like carpet woven from fallen leaves, delicate fungi, and the fine tendrils of moss. In this hush, the world feels timeless, as if every breath you draw stretches across ages. You inhale deeply, tasting the promise of transformation carried in each droplet that hangs from a fern's frond. Close your eyes for a moment, and you become a creature of half light and shadow, a small tyrannosaur ancestor, no larger than a hawk. Your body is draped in soft feathers, downy filaments that catch the slightest breeze and stir with life. Each quill shivers against your skin, a gentle armor against cool nights and predators' scent. With every breath, your chest expands under that delicate plumage, and you sense the rhythm of the forest pulsing through your bones. Cicadas trill in a steady chorus, and far-off thunder hints at storms gathering beyond the ridge. You stir on slender legs, each foot tipped with claws curved, like miniature sickles. You step lightly through ferns knee-high, careful not to disturb the dew that glimmers like scattered gems. A dragonfly darts past, its wings iridescent prisms flashing gold and blue in your peripheral vision. Instinct urges you to pursue, but caution anchors you to the ground. You crouch beside a fallen log and tilt your head, letting the world reveal itself in gentle detail. The patterns of lichen on bark, the delicate web of an orb spider, the faint tremor of leaf litter as a small mammal scurries nearby. In this world of soft edges and quiet movement, you hunt not with jaws of steel, but with precision. Your beak-like snout probes crevices in decaying wood, seeking insect larvae and grubs. Each morsel is a triumph, a spark of energy fueling your feathered frame. You feel satisfaction ripple through your spine as you swallow, grateful for each small gift of the forest's abundance. Yet even here, transformation simmers beneath your down. Over generations, your lineage will exchange this soft precision. For unmistakable power, science names this moment incipient gigantism, a threshold between small-bodied ancestors and the titanic predators of later ages. Your bones, though slender, develop hollow channels that lighten your weight for future flight or agile pursuit. Muscle scars deepen into ridges where muscles will one day anchor, propelling you into motions far beyond the scuttling of dawn hunts. Feathers grow longer, their shafts darkening at the tips, forming patterns that catch dappled sunlight. Each change, minute and patient, draws you closer to the shape we call Tyrannosaurus. A distant rumble shifts the forest's heartbeat. You rise on two legs, shoulders brushing ferns as you lift your gaze. Through the mist, a herd of hadrosaurs emerges broad-billed, giants grazing placidly on fern shoots. Their heavy feet sink into mud, leaving tracks that tell of weight and calm. You shrink into shadow, feathers flattening against your spine, and watch them pass, a living mountain of muscle and bone, heedless of the tiny creature at its fringe. You tremble between fear and wonder, sensing both the predator you will become and the prey you might yet resemble. Shadows lengthen as the sun climbs higher, painting the forest floor in shifting mosaics of light and dark. You slip forward, curiosity outweighing caution, stepping into one of those large footprints. Cool moisture presses against your toes, and you marvel at the contrast between your delicate feathers and these deep impressions. Here lies the silent prelude to thunderous footfalls, links in the chain of becoming. Without such moments of quiet wonder, the story of giants could not unfold. You press your hand to the ground and feel the faint hum of life beneath. You taste the earthy sweetness of decaying leaves and the metallic tang of mineral soil. Sounds drift to you, the chatter of prehistoric macaques in treetops, descendants of the earliest primates that dart among branches, the distant crash of falling timber, the gentle rustle of feathers meeting foliage. Each sensation is a syllable in nature's poem, each heartbeat an echo of evolution's patient rhythm. As twilight approaches, the forest dims into bluish hues. Fireflies awaken, their pale lanterns weaving through the undergrowth like floating stars. You ascend a low branch, folding your feathered limbs into a cozy nest of twigs and moss. Above, the sky deepens to indigo, and a canopy of stars shimmers through drifting mist. You close your eyes, your body rising and falling with slow breaths, and the forest's lullaby carries you toward dreams. In the theater of sleep, you stretch wings that do not yet exist, broad, powerful appendages that lift you above the canopy. In silent glide, you feel the thrill of flight, wind rushing past, the world dropping away into a tapestry of green and gold. Below, the forest breathes as one, seasons turning like pages in a silent book. You glimpse distant volcanoes smoking on the horizon, rivers glinting under morning light, and the endless possibilities of a life still unfolding. Morning's glow will find you back on the forest floor, feathers ruffled by dream's flight. You will rise again to hunt larvae and explore the flickering world of ferns and moss. But tonight, in the space between dusk and dawn, you rest on the threshold of transformation. You are both the spark and the flames, small and soft, yet carrying the seed of thunder. Each breath you take is a promise that one day those gentle feathers will yield to rippling muscle and bone, that quiet dawns will give way to earth-shaking footsteps. You hold that promise close as you drift between worlds, anchored by down and propelled by destiny. Science will one day uncover your fossilized form, and future listeners will hear your whisper in stone. They will trace the fine lines of quill, knobs on bone, and know how the story of kings began in fragile feather. Tonight, Sleep carries you on the forest's exhalation. You cradle transformation's gentle tide in your chest, a feathered heartbeat echoing through time. You rest in the knowledge that every small life matters, that evolution's tapestry unfolds one thread at a time, weaving creatures of wonder from the simplest filaments. And as dawn stirs distant echoes of ancient roars, you sense your downy world giving way to muscle and bone, beckoning you into the next chapter, where each heartbeat will grow louder and thunder will follow wings. Roke across a dusty bone, in every breath you take under these stars. Tonight, you have begun to learn how to listen to the earth's deep whisperer, soft prelude to the chapter that follows, where feathers turn to thunder and a creature grows toward its destiny, rising among the forests of Laramedia, calling across the ancient dawn. And as you drift toward sleep, you carry with you the quiet promise of transformation, feathers stirring in the dark, the soft echo of wings that will one day take flight. You awaken again to the forest's soft murmur, but today the world feels different, older, heavier, as if everything around you has pressed deeper into the soil. Underfoot, the ground seems firmer, rooted by trees whose trunks have thickened with centuries of sunlight. You stretch your limbs, feeling each muscle, fiber awaken like a tide rolling onto a shore. Slow and irresistible, imagine your body swelling outward, each cell dividing in a gentle cascade. Your limbs lengthen first, bones unfurling like stacks of ivory dominoes, sliding smoothly into new places. Tendons tighten and stretch, cartilage thins into real bone. You feel the hum of growth in your marrow, where stem cells whisper instructions: build, strengthen, endure. This process takes not days or years, but eons, quiet epochs measured in heartbeat echoes deep within the earth. As you grow, your skeleton adapts to carry new weight. Hollow chambers form inside your vertebrae, a lattice of struts and voids that lighten each segment. You sense the wind's resistance lessen, your stride lengthen, and your posture shift from low to regal. Each vertebra becomes a pillar, supporting the crown of your mass. This internal architecture is a marvel of natural engineering, not solid and clumsy, but balanced, resilient, efficient. Your ribs flare wider, curving around your heart like a protective cradle. In the same instant, your heart expands too, growing, not just in size, but in power. Each beat sends blood surging through vessels that have thickened like braided cords. Oxygen floods your muscles, fueling growth spurts that would shatter a lesser creature. You feel this heart as a drum within your chest, a ritual cadence that says, I am alive, I am large, I endure. Your limbs transform with equal poetry. Your hind legs, once slender and bird-like, morph into pillars of strength. Thigh bones plump into columns of solid bone, anchored by mighty muscles that coil around them like rope. Your calves thicken, your ankles fuse into a sturdy platform for the weight above. Each step you take now presses into the mud with authority, an imprint that records not just presence but purpose. In this realm of mass and momentum, balance is everything. You learn to shift your center of gravity by arching your tail, a long counterweight that swings gently behind you. It is not merely decoration, but vital support, a living keel that keeps you upright as you stride across floodplain and forest. You feel the subtle tug of its weight, guiding your movements like a dancer's partner. With size comes new senses. Your optic lobes swell, sharpening vision to peer across distances once blurred. You see the tiniest movements among the leaves, insects scuttle or distant herds, lumbering shapes. your nostrils flare, sensing chemical trails carried on the breeze, the scent of prey's blood, the musk of competing predators, the sweet decay of fallen fruit. Your ears, too, register low frequency, rumblings of distant herds, footfall, or the earth's tremor as volcanic plates shift. Your jaw becomes a more deliberate instrument. Muscles coil around its hinge like twisted vines, ready to clamp with unimaginable force. Your teeth grow not as blades, but as robust columns, interlocking like the gears of a vast machine. Each tooth roots deep into bone, a titan's nail designed for tearing through flesh and crushing bone. Yet for now, this power is latent, a promise held within you, waiting for the moment when hunger demands its release. The world around you stretches and shrinks in response. A creeping fern that once reached your head now barely brushes your midsection. The canopy above recedes. The hazy sky opens wider as you tower above. You feel the cool breeze against patches of scaled skin between feathered patches remnants of your ancestral down now, replaced by coarse scales along your belly and flanks. In quiet moments, you ponder the cost of this grandeur. Growth demands tremendous resources: water, protein, minerals, mined from the earth. You hunt for larger prey, your diet shifting from insects and lizards to hadrosaurs and armored cephalopods. Each meal is a feast and a necessity. With every bone you splinter, every muscle you carve away, you nourish your expanding form. Yet power is fragile. A misstep could fracture a leg bone. An infection could spread through your massive flesh. You recognize the fragility of life even at this scale. In the fossil record that future scientists will uncover, they will find specimens with healed fractures evidence that you endured pain and recovery. You see scars lining your body, silent memoirs of battles fought and won. Your growth is never a straight line, but a series of surges and plateaus. There are seasons when your body seems to stall, cocooned in patience and quiet cellular work. Then, with the turning of the seasons or a plentiful harvest of prey, you erupt in new spurts of mass. These pulses mark chapters in your life: juvenile, adult, a trilogy written in bone. As adulthood approaches, you feel a shift in purpose. No longer merely surviving, you become a steward of your realm. Your roar, once a whisper in feathers, now rings through valleys with low-frequency resonance. It is not just a call, but a declaration. This land bears your mark. With each thundering step, you reshape the earth, forging trails through underbrush and felling trees with the sweep of your tail. This is the heart of being a giant, not just size for its own sake, but the capacity to shape your environment. You create hunting grounds where none existed, open clearings for sunlit basking and deep wallows for mud rolling. Other creatures adapt around you, some fleeing, some following in your wake, understanding instinctively that your movement defines opportunity. Yet even kings must sleep. You find a safe hollow arise, crowned by rock outcrops that guard three sides. Here you settle, tail curling round your side, neck lowering until your massive skull rests on the ground like a stone sentinel. You breathe deeply, each inhale, a quiet affirmation of the miracle of growth in the hush of night. The stars wheel overhead unnoticed, dwarfed by your presence. But in your dreams, you return to that first moment of emergence, small, feathered, and scanning for insects. You feel the contrast between those fragile beginnings and your current power, the same heart, beating in a vastly larger frame. The same sense of wonder driving the same cautious steps through mossy ferns. Tomorrow you will rise again. each morning a renewal of the same extraordinary process. Your body will remain in flux, never static, always adapting. You are growth made manifest, evolution's grand experiment played out in flesh and bone. Every inch you grow carries the weight of your ancestors' choices, each cell's division, echoing across millions of years. Tonight, though, you rest. You feel the soft exhalation of breath against the cool rock. Your body, immense and trembling with life, hums a lullaby that resonates through the earth itself. You are giant and fragile, powerful and vulnerable, a living paradox bound by the same forces that shape every creature. And as your eyes close in the starlit hush, you sense not only the weight of your size, but the delicate balance that holds you upright. An equilibrium you will carry into a land shaped by sea and continent, where island worlds beckon in the next chapter. You awaken to the gentle rocking of a silver-green sea, its surface rippling under a dawn breeze scented with salt and pine. Above you, gull-like creatures wheel in lazy circles, their calls echoing against distant cliffs. You stand on the prow of a floating barge of driftwood and seaweed, guided by ancient currents toward a land no map now names. This sea was once the Western Interior Seaway, a vast arm of ocean that split the continent in two. On its western shore lies Laramedia, a realm of jagged peaks, verdant valleys, and endless dusk-lit plains. Here, your heart beats in time with tectonic rhythms, each pulse echoing the slow drift of continents. The shoreline glitters with fossil promise-broken shells worn smooth by waves, bones half buried in shifting sands. You step onto silt that bears the footprints of giants, three-toed impressions like shallow bowls, each filled with seawater and sunlight. You feel the weight of those vanished lives beneath your feet, a soft reminder that every creature leaves its mark. As you wade inland, the water recedes into marsh and delta, where mangrove-like plants, relative of modern palm stand sentinel over fecund mud. In this cradle of growth, life rises in emerald swarms. Fish dart in tidal channels, crustaceans scuttle along the shoals, and tiny pterosaurs skim the water's edge in search of fish. The air grows warm and thick with humidity as you pass beneath, a canopy of towering conifers and podocarp forests. Giant horsetails rise like cathedral columns, their spires fringed with feathery fronds. You brush a hand against ancient bark, rough and flaking, and imagine its sap carrying nutrients from root to tip across decades. The forest floor is soft with fallen needles, quilting the earth in gold brown. Beneath that mat, tar-soaked sands preserve secrets, the delicate bodies of insects, feathers pressed into thin shale, and the occasional fragment of bone of lives once lived. Here, volcanic ash drifts like snowfall through shafts of emerald light. Every now and then, a distant roar rumbles through mountain passes, where fire and stone meet. You inhale the metallic temps of ash and sulfur, your lungs filling with the primal breath of creation and destruction. Volcanoes are both teachers and terrors. They shape these lands through pyre and pumice, raising peaks that cradle clouds and carving valleys that channel rivers. Their eruptions forge new soils, fertile for forests, yet also carry ruin for creatures unprepared for sudden darkness and choking dust. You emerge into a sweeping plain, grass-like ferns brushing your legs as you walk. Under the muted sun, herds of hadrosaurs, duck-billed giants gather beside shallow lakes, their broad beaks slice through aquatic vegetation, and you hear a low, throaty hum that resonates like wind through reeds. You approach, slowly, moving with care so as not to startle them. A mother nudges her young aside, and you feel the gentle pulse of her heart through the era-living metronome for this sanctuary of plenty. These hadrosaurs are gardeners of the plain, cropping plants and trampling reeds, their constant grazing, renewing the landscape. Beyond them, ceratopsians roam in armored herds, their horned faces thrusting through laurel shrubs. Their frills flare like shields, each pattern unique as a fingerprint. You stand among these ancient tanks of the Cretaceous, each step deliberate and ponderous, leaving craters in soft mud. They communicate with low grunts and stomps, a chorus of slow thunder that harmonizes with the hiss of wind. Watching them, you sense a deep kinship, their bodies designed for defense, yours built for predation and exploration, yet each reliant on this world of abundance. Rivers wind through the plain in braided channels, their waters teeming with fish and amphibians. You dip your hand into the cool current and feel the smooth glide of paddlefish beneath your skin. Peacock-sized turtles dive and resurface in lazy arcs, their shells coated in algae and barnacles. On the banks, dendrix, small, feathered theropods dart among ferns, their eyes bright with curiosity. They remind you of ancestors small and swift, moving through shadows long ago, cloaked in dowan and filigree of Yankee dust. As you journey farther, the land rises toward foothills of craggy mountains. You climb a slope strewn with volcanic boulders, each etched with lichen in chalky hues. From this vantage, the mosaic of Laramedia unfolds, dense forests giving way to sun-drenched prairies, rivers snaking toward the sea, and distant peaks wreathed in cloud. You taste the temps of pine resin on the breeze and hear the faint cry of a pterosaur. Overhead, its wings spanning twice your arm's length, shadowing the land in silent flight. In this realm, Tyrannosaurus rules. You sense its presence before. You see a tan undercurrent of power in the air, like gravity intensified. You follow faint tracks, footprints 30 centimeters deep, spaced in a deliberate stride. They lead you into a grove of cycads and ferns, where light filters through foliage in shifting patterns. There, you glimpse movement, a towering form stepping between trunks, tail sweeping low, skull held level. Its small, feathered arms brush, leaves aside, and its eyes, like liquid amber, scan the forest floor. You hold your breath as it pauses, sniffing the air with deep inhale. You feel its heartbeat as a soft tremor through the earth, matching your own pulse. You understand then that you are a visitor in its realm not just of physical size, but of instinct and dominance. Yet even this king is not omnipotent. His reign is measured in seasons and challenges, droughts that parch watering holes, volcanic ash that blackens the sky, disease that sweeps through herds. The fossil record will one day reveal his triumphs and vulnerabilities in equal measure. Still, for tonight, you rest in the hush of that grove, hidden by ferns and shadows. You close your eyes and let the symphony of Laramedia wash over you, the low hum of hadrosaurs, the creak of ceratopsian armor, the splash of river currents, and the distant thunder of eruptions. You feel the continent itself breathe beneath, your skin mountains swelling, valleys beckoning, seas pulsing at the edges. Before sleep claims you, you wander to the water's edge once more. The silver sea reflects the gleam of stars, and you imagine this world as a living tapestry stitch by stitch woven in stone and flesh. In this tapestry, every life matters, from the tiniest dendric to the mightiest tyrant lizard. You see how they shape each other. Prey teaching predator patience, predator teaching prey vigilance, both teaching the land to renew itself. Tonight, as you drift between consciousness and dream, you carry Laramidia's song in your solar melody of growth and decay, creation and collapse. You hold the continent's pulse in your own chest, matching its rhythm as it will one day match the heartbeat of future generations who listen to these ancient echoes. And as you close your eyes beneath Laramidia's star-spattered sky, you sense the next whisper on the wind, the roar of a skull like thunder, awaiting its reveal in the chapter to come. You find yourself standing in a dimly lit hall of stone, where glass cases line the walls and spotlights rest upon silent sentinels of bone. The air is hushed here, thick with reverence. Each exhibit holds fragments of lifelong gone vertebrae, claws, teeth, but at the center stands the skull you seek, mounted on a pedestal like a relic of divine design. You step forward, feeling the shift in atmosphere as you draw near. The glass is cool against your fingertips when you lay your hand upon the display case, but through it you sense a warmer pulse, as though the bone itself still remembers breath. This skull is immense, longer than your body, wider than your outstretched arms. It is both vessel and chamber, containing a living map of sinew and cavity. You circle it slowly, eyes tracing each ridge, each opening. A network of fenestrier pockets pierces the cranium, creating a honeycomb of strength and weight savings. It is an architectural marvel, walls of bone thick enough to resist impact, yet hollow enough to lighten the load. Each hollow is lined with struts of bone, like buttresses in a Gothic cathedral, channeling stress to the strongest points and creating a fortress of living stone. You close your eyes, lean forward, and imagine yourself within that fortress. You feel the hinges of the jaw, massive yet articulate, capable of a slow, deliberate clamp that can crush bone. A shiver passes down your spine as you envision muscles coiling beneath tough skin, pulling that jaw shut with a force unmatched on land. But this skull was not built for brutality alone. Its shape is precise. The snout narrows to focus bite force. The orbits face forward for stereoscopic vision, and the temporal openings allow massive muscles to fan out and anchor securely. Every contour is shaped by the necessity of power and accuracy, running your finger along the tooth row through the glass. You sense the graduated pattern, D-shaped premaxillary teeth at the front for grasping, banana-shaped maxillary teeth behind for slicing and crushing. You imagine the living, tooth-bearing bones, each tooth rooted deep, held in place by ligaments that allowed slight give under stress, so that bone and tooth work together rather than shattering under enormous force. In your mind's eye, you watch a living Tyrannosaurus snap its jaws around a limb, bone cracking and splintering in a brutal symphony of science in action. But you do not hear a roar. Instead, you feel a low vibration through the flora resonance that begins in the deep chambers of the skull. Vibrations from muscle contractions, echoes from vocal sacs in the throat, carried through solid bone into the air. This animal doesn't produce a shout but a sonorous hum that travels on low-frequency waves, felt more than heard. It is the vibration of dominion, the warble of apex power, as intimate as a heartbeat, yet vast as an earthquake. You step back, eyes still closed, and breathe slowly. You feel the skull's presence in your own mind, a shared stillness that stretches across 66 million years. You are not predator today. You are student and witness. Each detail of this crown speaks to adaptation honed over eons. The nasal passages expanded to warm and filter air. The secondary palate formed to allow breathing while swallowing. The semicircular canals shaped for balance in rapid turns. In these silent halls, science speaks fluently through bones. Opening your eyes, you study the skull's underside. The palatal bones form a smooth roof to the mouth, allowing food to pass unimpeded to the throat. The brain case sits deep within the vault, protected on all sides by thick walls of bone. You imagine the brain itself, frothily the size of a modern alligator's, but richly convoluted, especially in regions for smell and vision. Tyrannosaurus relied on these senses. Keen eyesight allowed it to spot movement miles away, and its olfactory bulbs processed scents like a radar system, tracking prey or carrion across lost continents. Your gaze drifts to the small holes for foramen, the snout bones. Each opening once housed blood vessels and nerves, like conduits of feeling. The skin and muscles draped over this skull were not a simple mask, but a sensory grid. Changes in air pressure, vibrations in the ground, subtle shifts in temperature. With each small detail, you realize how this skull was not only a weapon, but a window to the world. Behind the skull, a placard describes the fossil's discovery, a remote badland where weathered cliffs reveal layers of rock in rainbow strata. Paleontologists braved scorching sun and rattlesnakes to unearth these bones, carefully chiseling with picks and brushes until each fragment lay free. They mapped every piece, noted orientation for taphonomic clues, and packed the fossils in plaster jackets dinosaurs, encased in stone until they could be studied under gentle light. These researchers, too, felt reverence as you now feel, understanding that in their hands they held a key to deep time. You step away to examine footprints, displayed nearby casts of three-toed tracks made in ancient mud. Each print echoes the skull's design, powerful legs delivering weight onto footpads, claws marking the edges. You match gait to skull, feeling how anatomy in one part of the body influences every other. A long stride demands balance, demands a stable head atop a stiff neck. The skull's weight is countered by muscle attachments on the neck vertebrae, a living seesaw where bone and flesh negotiate equilibrium. Retuning to the skull, you sense it as a metaphor for all power's fragility. Underneath its sturdy design lies vulnerability. Stress fractures heal poorly. Bone infections can spread in hidden chambers, and delicate sensory structures can be damaged by blows. Indeed, paleontologists have found skulls with healed wounds, bite marks from other tyrannosaurs, crushed areas that regrew into bony callus. These scars tell tales of introspecific combat, rivalries for territory or mate, echoing behavior seen in modern animals. Power, once tested, leaves its mark in stiff lines of bone. Soft lighting accentuates each ridge and hollow. You close your eyes again and feel transported inside that silence. You hear the subtlest pulses, blood coursing through carotid canals, air passing through nostrils, low-frequency calls rumbling from the throat. For a moment, you inhabit that skull, not as a predator, but as an organism finely attuned to survival. You understand that its shape is the intersection of multiple demands: feeding, sensing, breathing, communication. You step back into the open hall where modern life continues. At the periphery, a museum guard gently straightening a placard, a visitor wiping fog from glasses. You breathe in the present, carrying with you a tincture of the past. The skull remains in its case, static yet dynamic in its implications. Each visitor adds to its story, layering interpretation like sediment. Science is a conversation that spans millennia, built in part on this silent sentinel. Beyond the museum door, Night falls gently over the city. Street lights glow like distant stars, and you feel the continuity of time from primordial seas to fossil holes to urban life. You touch your temple and imagine the ancient brain that once sat within that skull, processing sight, smell, motion, strategy, the seat of consciousness, coiled inside bone and sinew, shaped by evolution's patient hand. In your own reflection, you see a curious mind, awakened by the weight of fossil truth. You sense how seeing with power is not simply owning strength, but understanding its limits, its costs, and its lineage. Like the skull, you carry layers, memories, knowledge, instincts. Each shapes how you move through the world. You recognize that power, whether biological or intellectual, resonates most deeply when tempered by humility. Tonight, as you settle into sleep, you hold that skull's lesson close. That true resonance arises not from volume, but from depth. That power echoes most clearly when we listen as much as we shape. You carry the hush of bone halls, the reverberation of low-frequency calls, and the weight of time's slow construction. And as your breath slows in the darkness, you feel the faint tremor of a distant bite forsan echo beckoning you toward the next chapter, where the physics of a tyrant's bite become the poetry of survival. You settle into the hush of night, a quiet companion to your thoughts as you focus on your jaw. Every fiber of muscle, every joint, every sinew cooperates in a moment of unimaginable force. You inhale slowly, feeling the soft tension behind your teeth. Then you exhale and imagine the mechanics at work in the Tyrannosaurus's bite. In your mind's eye, you see a massive skull lowering itself onto a limb. The lower jaw rises like a drawbridge, muscles anchored around the hinge, coiling like twisted ropes. This is not mere jaw clamping, but a precise orchestration of power, a concert of anatomy designed by millions of years of evolution. The jaw employs a lever system. The short in-lever arm amplifies muscle tension behind the hinge, while the long out-lever arm beyond the hinge drives the tooth tips through flesh and bone. With every millimeter this jaw closes, pressure builds exponentially. You sense the equation: tight muscles multiplied by long lever arms, divided by surface area yields bite force. In this apex predator, that equation reaches its majestic apex. You visualize the teeth, sturdy, banana-shaped, serrated along the edges like a bread knife. Each tooth is a column of enamel and dentine, rooted deep in dense jawbone. These teeth are not fragile protrusions, but torque transmitters, each precisely shaped to resist shattering under immense pressure. You imagine the teeth flexing within their sockets, absorbing shock like finely tuned shock absorbers. As the jaws close, stress concentrates at the tooth tip. Bone begins to crack in microscopic fractures, propagating through the limb until the structure finally gives way. But the T-Rex does not crush indiscriminately. Its skull architecture channels force to optimize bone breaking. The lower jaw's shape funnels stress along defined paths, preventing cracks from spreading to vulnerable regions. This ability to crush bone confers ecological advantage. Sensing snapped bone marrow, the tyrannosaur can extract rich nutrients, inaccessible to other predators. You feel the slow thrill of that discovery, how a predator became also a vacuum cleaner of life's most precious resources. Nothing goes to waste. Nothing is left unclaimed. Then you consider the physics in broader terms. This huge bite does more than feed. It shapes the ecosystem. Limbs snapped by a single bite leave carcasses littered across the plains, providing feasts for scavengers and decomposers. The tyrant's hunt becomes the starting line for many smaller lives, spinning an ecological web from apex to microbe. You imagine following the tracks of a tyrannosaurus across a rainy plain. You arrive at a kill site, broken bones jut from mud, teeth marks scored into cortical surfaces. You kneel and trace one groove, following its curve as though reading a page of ancient scripture. Each groove speaks of precise angles, of strike force, of feeding behavior. You reflect on modern predators, hyenas crushed bone with dentition evolved. Much later, wolves tear but rarely break long bones, birds of prey tear flesh. Yet none match this combination of bone-cracking power and feeding efficiency. You feel the waking wonder of engineering perfected by nature's long experiment. This bite force also constrained the tyrant's own anatomy, thickened bone, reinforced. Cranial sutures, robust muscle attachments all evolved to withstand reciprocal forces. Underneath layers of muscle and skin, the skull is a fortress built to endure its own power. You see the interplay of design and function, how every adaptation begets another in recursive refinement. You breathe and feel the slow rhythm of your own jaw, not capable of such force, yet resonating with the memory of what once existed. In this moment, you are both observer and participant, feeling the ancient mechanics echo through your own structure. Night deepens around you, and you close your eyes to deeper focus. You trace the path of force through the jawbone, from muscle insertion on the quadrate, through the articular joint and beyond. You follow stress lines drawn in your imagination, illuminated like lightning through dark rock. Evolution did not design this bite in isolation. It involved coordination of sensory acuity, neuromuscular precision, and metabolic capacity. Massive jaw muscles require high protein intake. A colossal bite requires strong neck muscles. Powerful necks anchor on robust vertebrae. Each system interlocks like cogs in a great machine. You imagine the sensory feedback loops that guide bite placement. Specialized nerve endings in the snout detect pressure changes, ensuring that each bite delivers optimal force to target areas. You feel the subtlety of that sensation, like a musician feeling the vibration of a string. You listen to your own heartbeat and map it to the tyrant's hunting rhythm. Each chase, each ambush, each jaw snap follows a tempo wrought by millions of years. You recognize that power without control is chaos. Precision without power is futility. Here, nature found the balance. You imagine the aftermath of a feast. Jaws slackened. The tyrant stands amid debris of shattered bone and torn flesh. Blood trickles along its muzzle, dark red in the fading light. You sense a quiet reverence in that scene. Death's necessary grace, the world renewing itself through endings and beginnings. As you reflect, you understand that this bite shaped not just the tyrant but its world. Prey species evolved larger bodies, thicker defenses, or swifter flight to evade the tyrant's jaws. The interplay of predator and prey drove a coevolutionary dance, each adaptation met by a counter-adaptation. This mechanical dialogue etched itself into the very fabric of Cretaceous life. You let that thought settle, feeling the gentle weight of eons in your mind. The bite that once ruled countenance becomes a metaphor for influence. Powerful acts resonate outward, shaping contexts, forging futures. And yet, every action carries feedback, requiring adaptation in return. You open your eyes to darkness and inhale deep, sensing the silence alive around you. You taste the iron tang of blood in your imagination, not fear but profound respect. You feel connected to that predator's lineage, its legacy flowing through time to you. Tonight, you rest, with the echo of ancient force in your bones. You sense how structure and function intertwine in seamless harmony, each bite a chord in nature's symphony. You imagine the microscopic world inside the bone, networks of ostens spiraling like fingerprint whorls, each canal carrying blood and nerves. These canals feed living cells, repairing microfractures from each powerful bite. Over time, bone remodels itself in response to stress, strengthening where needed and thinning where safe. You sense the living dynamism hidden beneath the fossilized shell. Consider the metabolic demands of such force. A T-Rex needed vast amounts of protein and calories to sustain its enormous muscles. You imagine the digestive tract stretching, long and wide, acids and enzymes churning flesh, cracking open bone fragments to extract marrow. Each swallow was a chemical ballet, breaking down collagen and calcium, fueling the next hunt. Imagine the juvenile learning to bite. At first, its jaws apply little pressure, teeth slipping along bone harmlessly. Through trial and error, it learns to position its head, to angle its skull, to concentrate force. You see a young tyrannosaur practicing on carrion, testing its bite until it finds the sweet spot where bone yields most readily. This learning embeds neural patterns for life. You think of parallel innovations in other species, crocodiles with their crushing palates, hyenas with their specialized premolars, sperm whales sending shockwaves through water. Each evolved bone-breaking strategies in its own medium, but the tyrant's bite remains unique. The combination of terrestrial gravity, massive skull, and refined leverage paired in unparalleled harmony. You reflect on the data paleontologists gather. Titanium strain gauges, affixed to modern reptile skulls, measure pressure during feeding. Computer simulations model bite force across hypothetical bone densities. Finite element analysis illuminates stress distribution in virtual fossils. You feel admiration for human ingenuity, translating stone relics into living mechanics. Close your eyes and hear the imaginary crunch echo in deep cavern halls. Sound waves propagate through air, through the solid earth, shaking roots and reverberating in underground aquifers. This low-frequency roar carries survival signals across miles, alerting scavengers and rivals alike. You dwell on the moral of this force. A bite so powerful could indiscriminately kill or maim, yet natural selection sculpted it to meet needs. With economy, like a master craftsman choosing tools, the tyrant's anatomy evolved precision in violence, not gratuitous destruction. You imagine being that predator at dusk, eyes reflecting sunset rose color. It stalks near a watering hole. Heart thumps in measured anticipation. Muscles from skull to tail coil like springs. You feel your own muscles tighten in mimicry. Then jaws descend, a singular moment of pure physics unspooling in millisecond grace. When you rise to walk away from the fossil exhibit, you carry that moment like a secret. Every hinge of your own body, teeth, jaw, neck resonates with echo from the past. You move with added awareness of the delicate orchestration enabling each bite of your evening meal. As you settle into bed, your mind tastes the intertwined nature of biomechanics and ecology. You understand that this bite was not merely an act of consumption, but a force that carved niches, shaped species, and left imprints in stone for you to discover. Each fossil is a testament to that force. You imagine the microscopic world inside the bone, networks of ostens spiraling like fingerprint whorls, each canal carrying blood and nerves. These canals feed living cells, repairing from each powerful bite. Over time, bone remodels itself in response to stress, strengthening where needed and thinning where safe. You sense the living dynamism hidden beneath the fossilized shell. Consider the metabolic demands of such force. A T-Rex needed vast amounts of protein and calories to sustain its enormous muscles. You imagine the digestive tract stretching long and wide, acids and enzymes churning flesh, cracking open bone fragments to extract marrow. Each swallow was a chemical ballet, breaking down collagen and calcium, fueling the next hunt. Imagine the juvenile learning to bite. At first, its jaws apply little pressure, teeth slipping along bone harmlessly. Through trial and error, it learns to position its head, to angle its skull, to concentrate force. You see a young tyrannosaur practicing on carrion, testing its bite until it finds the sweet spot where bone yields most readily. This learning embeds neural patterns for life. In paleontological labs, technicians clean bone fragments with dental tools, revealing serration patterns on tooth edges. Each microtooth notch speaks to dietary preferences. Deeper serrations slice through fibrous muscle, while broader spaces accommodate marrow plugs. You see technicians comparing these edges under magnification, measuring enamel thickness and groove depth. This meticulous work transforms silent fossils into reflect on human engineering inspired by these ancient jaws. Engineers study lever ratios for machinery, from heavy-duty excavators to surgical pliers. They marvel at the balanced T-Rex struck between strength and speed, seeking to replicate it in robotics. You sense the continuum linking biology to technology, nature's lessons guiding human innovation. You feel the lineage of that bite extending into your own body. Your teeth bear enamel that descends from those ancient columns of bone. Every meal you eat, every bite you take, is a voice in an ancient symphony. You recognize that power and precision, once expressed in primal jaws, now find echoes in your own chewing and speech. And in this understanding, you carry forward the legacy of that mighty bite, a whisper across deep time that shapes all who listen. And in this understanding, you carry forward the legacy of that mighty bite, a whisper across deep time that shapes all who listen. You awaken beneath a mottled canopy of ferns and cycads, sunlight filtering down in gentle shafts that warm the soft down of your feathers. You are small again, no larger than a large dog, every movement unsteady as you rise on trembling legs. Your bones are not yet the pillars of the giant to come. They are still pliable, growing with each breath. You stretch your neck and feel the gentle crackle of cartilage shifting into bone, a reminder that your body is still writing its story in living tissue at dawn. You venture from the nest, a hollow lined with fern fronds beneath a fallen log. Around you, your siblings scrabble for warmth, peeping softly as they untangle from a nest-bound tangle of limbs and fluff. A mother stands guard at the edge of the clearing, powerful hind legs planted firm, a tail swaying with careful vigilance. Her eyes liquid amber sweep the forest, reading every flicker of light and shadow for signs of danger. Though you are young, you know to stay close. The world beyond the clearing is filled with both wonder and threat. Your first lesson is caution. The forest floor teems with shapes. A dragonfly perched on a blade of horsetail reed, its wings reflecting dawn's pink glow. A beetle crunching through decaying wood. A scurrying mammal child no larger than your foot. You pounce on the beetle, claws grasping gently as if testing the world's responsiveness. The beetle flips, scrabbling, and you learn the thrill of pursuit, the sudden rush of catch and the soft lesson of release when you sense its life slipping away as the sun climbs. You follow your mother beyond the fern ring into a clearing. Here, hoofed herbivores graze small ceratopsians, nibbling low shrubs, their tiny horns glinting in the light. You watch with wide eyes as they move in groups, their heads dipping in unison, tails flicking away insects. You sense their calm, strength, and instinctively mirror their caution, pausing whenever they glance your way. Through their composed grazing, you understand the maturity you aspire to, the steady confidence of those at ease in their world. Beside the ceratopsians, a brook gurgles over smooth stones. You wade in, water swirling round your toes, and feel the cool rush embrace you. You lean forward to sip, tongue flicking across the surface, and see fish dart away like silver arrows. The water teaches you reflection, both literal and metaphorical. You glimpse your juvenile form, slender limbs, downy coat, a head too big for your neck, and eyes alive with curiosity. You study yourself as though meeting a stranger, and in your reflection, you recognize the potential for transformation. Your mother nudges you gently, guiding you along the water's edge to a patch of horsetail shoots. She demonstrates the careful cropping of each stalk, her beak-like snout slicing through fibrous plant matter. You try to mimic her, but your first attempts are clumsy, tearing too deeply or missing entirely. She watches without scorn, allowing your mistakes to teach you more than perfection ever could. Through her patience, you learn that growth requires space for failure, that every stumble knits strength into your muscles and resolve into your mind. Beyond foraging, you learn to listen. The forest is alive with messages, the tap-tap of woodpecker like dinosaurs drilling for insects, the distant rumble of a larger theropod waking from slumber, the rustle of leaves signaling a predator's approach. Your ears, small but kin-catch frequency ranges you never thought possible. You close your eyes and let the sounds wash over you, distinguishing insect calls from small mammal squeaks, twig snaps from falling fruit. Each day, your auditory map of the world expands, attuned to the rhythms of life and danger. As midday heat settles in, you rest beneath a fern umbrella. Your siblings curl beside you, sharing warmth and comradeship. You learn the comfort of closeness, the security that arises from connection. When one of you trembles at a distant call, the others huddle tighter, and together you find calm. In these moments, you sense the importance of family bonds, not just for warmth, but for shared vigilance and teaching. Without this nest community, your vulnerability would be too great. With it, you gain the confidence to explore. Afternoon brings new lessons in movement. You chase shadows cast by waving fronds, leaping over fallen logs in playful mimicry of adult bounds. Your limbs ache pleasantly with exertion, and you sense bones responding, thickening in response to stress. You sprint for short bursts, then collapse into the soft earth, breath heaving like miniature bellows. With each sprint, your cardiovascular system responds, vessels widening, heart pumping stronger. You feel growth imprint itself in muscle fibers, weaving new strength into your form. From your mother, you learn stealth. She crouches low, nearly invisible among the ferns, and beckons you forward with a slight head tilt. You mimic her posture, belly grazing the ground, eyes fixed ahead. She moves with the fluid grace of a willow in breeze, and you follow in her trail, tasting the thrill of silent approach. Suddenly, she bursts forward in a quick lunge, snapping up an unsuspecting lizard. You watch the arc of her strike, the precision of her timing, and feel the rush of imitation as you attempt the same. Your first lunge misses. The lizard flees into a mossy burrow. You stand, heart pounding, but exhilarated by the attempt. She nudges you again, and you try once more, this time nipping the tail tip of a skink. Victory pulses through your chest as you slowly release, sensing life's fragility and your growing prowess. As twilight approaches, you learn social cues. Among juvenile cousins, other young theropods you gather in shallow scrapes beside a tree root. You practice mutual preening, nibbling at each other's down to remove parasites and strengthen bonds. Gentle touches across the side of the neck, careful grooming of downy patches it, all teaches trust and cooperative care. Here, in these small circles, you experience hierarchy and equality, leadership and support. You learn that power grows, not only through individual strength, but through relationships built on respect and care. Night falls swiftly. You retreat to the safety of the nest clearing, where the mother stands sentinel. The sky darkens, stars emerging like distant flickers of fire. You feel a cool breeze whisper through the ferns, carrying scents of night-blooming plants and the distant bray of nocturnal insects. Your senses sharpen in the dim, pupils widening to gather every photon, ears tilting to catch the soft footfalls of small predators. You nestle close to your sibling, feeling their warmth seep into your down. Your breathing slows, and you reflect on the day's lessons: caution, foraging, listening, movement, social bonds. Each experience imprints on your growing mind, teaching the intricacies of survival. In dreams, you relive these moments with vivid clarity. You sprint across sunlit clearings, prosthetic wings springing from your down, and taste the sense of flight, though you cannot yet truly lift yourself. You stalk imaginary prey with silent steps, mastering stealth's art. You reunite with family in communal nests, feeling the comfort of togetherness across dreamscapes. Through these nocturnal rehearsals, your brain strengthens neural pathways, encoding muscle memory, sharpening instincts, preparing you for real challenges. Morning's light finds you again on the cusp of new beginnings. You hatch from the nest of childhood into the broader world of sub-adulthood, body and mind balanced between discovery and caution. Your bones bear the rings of growth, visible to future scientists who might one day count them like tree rings, reading patterns of season and health. You feel each ring as a memory, days of plenty and of scarcity, of victories and of gentle nudges toward improvement. Tonight, you rest on the threshold between youth and strength. You sense the shape of your adult self in the stretch of your spine, the widening of your pelvis, the thickening of your femur. Tomorrow, you will wander farther from the clearing, encountering challenges that test your lessons in caution and skill. You will learn from successes and mistakes alike, each moment tightening the weave of your muscles and the clarity of your mind. You close your eyes beneath the whispering ferns, feeling the heartbeat of the Cretaceous night soft and persistent, like your own. You drift toward sleep with the comfort of knowing that every stumble, every triumph, every breath shapes the giant you will one day become. And as you slip into dreams, you clutch one thought close: the land itself remembers every step you take, and its stories await your next discovery, the language of bones and tracks that will guide you onward into the horizon of time. And as your dreams carry you through fern-shadowed paths, you sense the silent messages etched in every scar and groove whispers of survival that beckon you to learn how bones themselves speak their stories in the next chapter. You kneel beside sandstone beds in the fading light, fingertips hovering just above fossilized bone, The surface is cool and grainy, like ancient marble worn by wind and water. You brush away a whisper of dust and reveal a rib curved smooth, yet bearing a jagged scar. You sense the life it once supported, the lungs that expanded beneath its arc. Here lies evidence of an injury long healed, a chapter in a creature's life written in bone. Fossils are more than relics. They are pages in Earth's autobiography. Each bone preserves not only shape, but moments of trauma and recovery. You trace a hairline fracture that widened but never fully separated, a testament to resilience. In that fracture, paleontologists read the story of a healing process, blood vessels invading the break, osteoblasts laying down new matrix, bone remodeling over months or years. You imagine the living animal, favoring one side, moving with slight hobble until strength returned. Nearby, a femur stands half exposed, its shaft bearing pockmarks, circular indentations rimmed with smooth bone. These are puncture wounds, healed over time, perhaps from a competitor's tooth. You run your finger along the edge and feel how bone grew thicker around the injury, creating a callus to reinforce the weakened area. In that reinforcement, you read the echoes of combat, an instinctive dispute for territory or mating rights, a battle that left its mark in flesh and bone. You rise and circle the outcrop, heartbeats echoing in time with your footsteps. The landscape holds other stories, partial skeletons, scattered bones, footprints and each element speaks in its own dialect. A missing tooth socket in a jawbone tells of dental replacement cycles. As one tooth fell away, another formed beneath and pushed upward, ensuring the tyrant always had instruments ready for feeding and defense. You imagine the regenerative miracle taking place weekly or monthly, a conveyor belt of enamel rods and dentine layers rising to renew the tyrant's bite. You stoop again to study a skull fragment, its surface etched with grooves, the trails of blood vessels that once supplied bone cells with nutrients. In life, these grooves plastered over with periosteum and soft tissue, but in death they remain as cartographic lines guiding your exploration. Each groove, each canal, is a pathway of life once traveled, a reminder that bone is living tissue, dynamic and ever-renewing, until the day it finally petrifies. Paleopathology is the science of these signs. You imagine the paleontologist's careful process. First, a gentle brush to reveal the fossil, then a dental pick to clear sediment, then photographs and measurements to document each anomaly. CT scans today allow researchers to peer inside bones, to visualize internal calluses and cavities, to estimate the angle and force of injuries. You feel admiration for this delicate union of fieldwork and technology. Your hands rest on a saucer-shaped depression, next to healed vertebral compression. The bone above has flattened, reshaped by pressure, evidence of a fall or collision powerful enough to crush part of the spine. Yet here, the tyrant lived on, vertebrae fused, nerves rerouted, muscles adapting to altered leverage. You sense the creature pressing forward, step by step, through pain and recovery, until vitality overcame weakness. This reading of fossils is like learning a language. You learn that texture changes, pitted surfaces, or smooth, polished bones signal different processes, infection, arthritis, tendon attachment, or healing scar. You learn to correlate shape and context. A thickened ridge near an articulation point suggests repetitive motion, perhaps from habitual feeding postures or specific hunting techniques. You read tiny cracks as evidence of stress fractures, microtraumas, from hard landings or vigorous muscle use, growing into full breaks, if not repaired. With each detail, you appreciate the story of survival. The tyrant did not live in perfection. It experienced wounds, disease, and hardship, yet adapted and endured. You reflect on your own body's scars, the marks of childhood scrapes and adolescent mishaps. In those marks, you find kinship with deep time. Every healed wound is a testament to resilience living creatures share, standing. You gaze across the field bones half buried in sediment, waiting for discovery. You sense the weight of time pressing down each layer of rock, a chapter in Earth's archive. You feel connected to those who will come after, who will uncover these bones and continue the narrative. Paleontologists bring these fossils to laboratory light, encasing them in plaster jackets, then slicing through layers of sediment with fine saws. Coaxing secrets out of stone in the lab, they might mount the bones on metal rods to reconstruct partial skeletons. They compare healed injuries across specimens, looking for patterns. Did older animals accumulate more scars? Did certain injuries correlate with geographic distribution, suggesting regional conflicts? You imagine the paleontologist charting these findings on graphs, overlaying fossil sites on maps, weaving a tapestry of behavior from isolated signs. In bone, through their work, you learn that the language of bones extends beyond individual lives. Mass mortality cites bone bedspeak of droughts or floods that trapped entire herds. Trackways of footprints in mudstones reveal social behavior, groups moving in parallel lines, following each other's steps. Fossilized nests, eggshell fragments, and hatchling bones detail reproductive cycles, growth rates, and parenting strategies. Each data point adds a sentence to the saga of Tyrannosaurus and its world. You settle beside a broken jaw and imagine the animal's last moments. That missing tooth socket once held a serrated blade for flesh. Its absence signals a violent encounter with prey or rival. You consider whether infection set in, whether the tyrant's life shortened as bacteria colonized the wound. Or maybe it survived, carrying the gap as a badge of experience. Bones tell both triumph and tragedy. Soft light fades further as dusk approaches. You watch as shadows lengthen across the quarry, and you sense the rhythm of work winding down. Shovels and brushes rest, notebooks close, headlamps switch off. Under starlight, you imagine the bones resting once more, awaiting the next dawns. Revelation. You rise and take one last look. Your fingers graze a weathered femur, and you whisper gratitude, gratitude for the bones' endurance, for the stories they preserve, for the scientists who listen. You recognize that these relics connect past and present, forging empathy across ages. You sense that in understanding these scars, you learn not only of Cretaceous lives, but of life's universal fragility and strength. Tonight, you carry the language of bones with you. In dreams, you hear whispered crackles as fractures mend. Bones knit, and growth continues. You feel your own skeleton breathing beneath skin, a living framework shaped by movement, diet, and chance. You hold each scar, each line, each healed break as a syllable in the deeper story of life. As you close your eyes for sleep, you ponder the next language to learn. Bones speak of suffering and survival, but another language awaits one woven through forest whispers, scent trails, and low-frequency rumbles. It is the language of living communication, of signals carried on wind and ground, of minds connected across silent spaces. And as you drift into dreams, you feel the forest itself waiting to speak, its whispers rising through roots and leaves, inviting you to listen to the next chapter's tale of hidden voices. You stand at the forest's edge as dawn unfolds. A hush deeper than absence settling beneath ancient trees. Mossy trunks rise like pillars in half-light, their bark whispering secrets you've only begun to understand. The air is cool, tremulous live with patterns beyond speech, a symphony of subtle signals. You step forward, your footsteps cushioned, on a carpet of needles and leaves, and you welcome the forest's gentle chorus. First you hear the earth itself, a low tremor beneath your feet, the pulse of shifting tectonic plates, the slow drumbeat of seasonal cycles echoing through roots and stone. Beneath the hum of life, the planet breathes in silent rhythms. You close your eyes and let that foundation draw your spine straight, grounding you in time's unhurried cadence. Next, you perceive the breath of wind as it threads through leaves and needles, each gust carrying messages borne on molecules. Pine resin and fern spore, damp earth and fungal spore mingle in a scented tapestry. You inhale deeply, tasting the forest's palate, the acidic temps of the canopy, the sweet undercurrent of decaying wood, the sharp hint of bracken fern. Scent becomes language, each aroma a syllable in nature's poem. Soft scuffling rises as dawn drakes awaken in undergrowth. These feathered cousins of Tyrannosaurus dart in flickering motion. Their soft calls, a rhythmic patter lighter than raindrops, brighter than birdsong. You listen to their chatter, discerning signals of safety. Food here, danger there. Gather close. Their voices thread through distant calls of larger creatures, creating a layered concert of alertness. You focus on the hush between sounds. In that space, the forest speaks most clearly. A distant footfaller, hadrosaur grazing vibrates through air and leaf litter, felt through the soles of your feet. You sense the tremor as a ripple across the ground, a gentle wave guiding your senses to the source. You follow the vibration, stepping lightly toward the thrum of life. Moss-covered stones pad your path, each cushion softening your movement, preserving your stealth. You pause beside a fallen log draped in lichen and ginger fungus, its surface a palette of green and pale ochre. Ants march in a line across the log's crest, antennae waving. You bend close and feel the pulse of their tiny stepser, cellular current inside the forest's larger heartbeat. Even these minuscule creatures contribute to the collective whisper. Higher above, leaves quiver as a breeze shifts direction. Gusts wrap around the trees, bending fronds in unison. You feel the pattern not only in your ears but along your skin. Sequence of pressure changes registering like braille on your arms. This tactile sensation speaks volumes. A storm gathering, a predator's approach, a shift in temperature. You learn to read these movements as forewarning. Each quiver a word in the forest's ongoing dialogue. Further in, the canopy thickens, filtering light into emerald gloom. You tread softly, pausing where shafts of sunlight land on the forest floor in golden patches. There, delicate mushrooms stand like silent sentinels. Their caps glisten with dew, displaying spore patterns unique as fingerprints. You crouch to examine one, noticing how its tissue releases a faint scent of almonds, a signal to insect partners that digestive enzymes await. In this chemical exchange, the fungus converses with beetles and flies, each drawn by odor to spread spores. You inhale the almond-sweet air and imagine the network of relationships woven through scent trails nearby. A staccato rattle echoes the mating display of a ground-dwelling lizard. You discern the rhythm as a coded call, "Here I am. Will you join?" The forest listens in response, its air pulsing with readiness. Insects pause in feeding, their antennae flicking toward the call. Birds above shift on branches in curious attention. You feel the forest's collective ear lean in, tuning to frequency after frequency. You rise and move deeper into groves of cycad and cycads, their fronds arching like rows of graceful dancers. Spots of sunlight illuminate, pollen drifting on quiet air currents. You close your hand and catch a powdery bloom, letting grains slip through your fingers. Each grain holds potential genetic code, carried on wind and wings to distant groves. In this gesture, you witness reproduction's silent protocol, pollen's delicate language binding past and future. Suddenly, the soft swell of respiration reaches your ears, the slow, deep breath of a tyrannosaurus somewhere ahead. You sense it before you see it, a subtle pressure wave, low in frequency, rolling through moss and root. Your heartbeat synchronizes with that pulse, and you hold still, letting your senses align with the forest's broader patterns. You are small here, an attentive listener amid giant's realm. Light shifts as you crest a gentle rise. Below, a clearing opens where a tyrannosaurus stands, a silhouette of power in half light. Its head tilts, nostrils flaring in inhalation. Through those flares, it samples molecules carried from afar, the musky scent of ceratopsian herds, the salty tang of a dried riverbed, the faint trace of carrion where a flood washed away a limb. You observe the deep folds of skin around its snout, each wrinkle a channel for scent gathering. You sense how this titan reads the world, not only with sight, but by turning its head like a sound mixer, sampling frequencies across space. You notice the head's subtle movements. It sways in a deliberate, rhythmic search left, right up, down, mapping scent gradients. When signal increases, muscles contract to align nostrils with the source. You mirror its motion in your mind, feeling the coordination between sensory input and muscular response. Intelligence here is quietin, attentiveness etched in every fiber as it steps forward. Feet cracking small twigs under vast weight, the ground vibrates in a slow throb. You feel the resonance through your feet, the subtle change in frequency. As toes push against earth, each step shifts pressure gradients, sending signals outward in expanding rings. In this way, the tyrant's approach broadcasts its presence to creatures attuned to ground vibration. Herds pause in grazing birds. Still their song, small mammals retreat to tunnels. You watch as the tyrant lowers its head to the ground, tongue flicking across leaves. Though its arms are small, head and neck dominate its interaction with the environment. Scent sourcing, vibration sensing, pressure feeling all converge in this moment of investigation, and you recognize how survival demands integration of senses, a tapestry woven from multiple threads. Behind the tyrant, you sense movement among hadrosaurus-duck-build giants feeding on low vegetation. Their broad bills crop ferns with precision, and they emit low-frequency calls in response to shifts in the tyrant's presence. Their bodies tremor slightly as ground waves radiate outward, prompting collective head lifts and cautious eye contact. They speak in rumbling grunts, negotiating whether to flee or freeze. In this standoff, communication extends beyond sight and sound into the domain of vibration and scent. The tyrant senses their alarm. With a deliberate slow turn, it lifts its massive sculler, shivering as it exhales. You imagine the sensory receptors inside its skull, pressure sensors in the snout, bone-conducted sound detectors, neural networks interpreting multisensory clues. The animal reads the forest as a living map, every nuance a coordinate. In its intelligence, you see the forest's language mastered. You step back, heart pounding as the clearing holds its breath. The tyrant turns away, moving off toward deeper wood. You exhale in relief, grateful for its restraint and for your own unobtrusive presence. In this shared moment, predator and prey exist in dynamic balance, each sensing the other across layers of silent communication. As dusk deepens, you continue downstream where the forest opens onto a marsh. Cicadas trill in chorused crescendo. Frogs answer in croaking counterpoint, and reeds vibrate as fish surface. Water sends ripples upward, carrying sound waves that refract in shifting patterns. You lie prone at the water's edge, ears at height with the ripples, feeling sonic distortions in your chest. The marsh's voice is alive, each drop and splash a note in liquid harmony. Night air chills and you wrap your arms around yourself, absorbing warmth. Fireflies emerge, flickering in Morse code pulses. They flash in patterns, partner here, warning there. You watch their signal dance, mesmerized by the perfect timing of their bioluminescent Morse. In their small lights, you find hope that even dim stars can speak across shadows. You rise and follow a path lined with glow moss, luminescent at your every step. The forest floor itself begins to glow, guiding you through twilight. In this ethereal light, you sense that the forest's language extends beyond human senses into realms of light invisible by day. Bioluminescence is a conversation in photons, a secret code for creatures awake under moon and star. You return to your resting place beneath giant cycads, where you first entered the forest's hush. An owl-like creature perches above, its head swiveling in silent scanning. Its gaze, like yours, is an act of listening, a gesture of understanding without words. You lie on your back, eyes on the sky's lattice of leaves and stars, and you feel the forest's song echo through every nerve. Tonight, you sleep attuned to scent, sound, and vibration, the forest's layered language woven through every dream. You carry with you the quiet lesson of Tyrannosaurus's intelligence, the sensitivity of hadrosaurs and dawn drakes, the neon code of fireflies, and the liquid chorus of marshes. In each breath, you echo the forest's pageantry of signals, and as the first light of morning filters through canopy and moss, you awaken, ready to learn another dialect, the secret rhythms of giants walking together, their tracks a silent story. In mud, and as dawn stirs the forest's whispers into a new song, you sense the echo of many feet giants moving in concert, whose trackways will lead you into the next chapter's tale of companionship and rhythm. You awaken on a soft, dew-damp plain at dawn, mist rising in silver veils above the ferns. Beneath your feet, the ground bears twin sets of footprints, pressed into ancient mudlong, three-toed impressions spaced in parallel lines. You step gingerly into the print, feeling their cool, concave shape cradle your foot. Immediately, you sense you are not alone. Multiple trackways weave beside yours, each stride in quiet alignment. You walk forward, matching pace to these lingering echoes of giants, and feel a gentle camaraderie in their silent company. The trackways curve along the plain, bending around clusters of cycads and horsetails. You follow the arcs, noting variations in stride, length, and depth. Some tracks are deeper, made by an older, heavier individual, others lighter, a youthful gait. Between them, narrow imprints suggest smaller feet, perhaps juveniles trailing. Their elders. In this pattern, you read a story of movement shared, a family traversing the landscape together. each member aware of the others, maintaining a subtle cohesion in their steps. As you walk, you imagine shapes moving through the haze, tall necks swinging between conifers, tails dragging like pendulums behind massive bodies. You feel the gentle vibration in the soles of your feet as each footprint settled into damp mud. This vibration, now vanished, once rippled outward an unspoken signal of presence, allowing trailing members to adjust their pace and direction. In your stride, you become part of that chain, your heartbeat syncing with the measured rhythm of the tyrant pack. The idea of dinosaur families has long been debated. Fossilized nests sometimes lie near adult remains, suggesting care for young. Trackways like these hint at group travel. Though evidence remains inconclusive, you embrace the possibility. You believe in the comfort of companionship, imagining how these giants shared more than ground. They shared watchful eyes, coordinated hunts, and quiet rest. You step carefully around shallow puddles, preserving delicate prints to reveal later insights about weight distribution and gait. Morning light strengthens, and you notice droppings fossilized in roca line of coprolites, marking a pause in the journey. You kneel to examine them, fingertips tracing spiral ridges. Inside, you glimpse fragments of bone and plant matter, offering clues to diet and possibly to shared meals. Did the group stop here to feast together? Perhaps adults fed first, then juveniles, each taking turns under watchful guardianship. You imagine the scent of fresh kills mingling with earth and plant aromas, a moment of communal nourishment before onward passage. You stand and listen to the wind rustling through saccades. In that rustle, you hear echoes of coordinated movement then, shifting in unison, bodies brushing vegetation. You wonder if the group used subtle signals, low frequency, rumbles transmitted through the earth as warnings or calls to gather. Perhaps the lead individual shifted its tail in a distinct pattern to signal a change of pace. You feel your own tailbone tingle, as though recalling an ancestral memory of communication through vibration. Continuing, you follow the trackways onto a gentle rise. There, a shallow depression, resting site reveals multiple rounded imprints, where giants once settled, each about the size of a small pond, cradled heavy bodies in a communal bed. You imagine dusk descending as the pack lowered themselves onto the earth, tail curling around flanks, necks tucking into feathered shoulders. In the fading light, you see their silhouettes, shapes of mutual protection, sharing warmth and security against predators of the night. Behind the resting impressions, you find scratch marks etched into the soil-clod digs, perhaps used to clear vegetation before lying down or to create shallow depressions for comfort or drainage. These marks run in parallel sets, suggesting coordinated action. You picture juveniles learning by mimicking adult motions, their curiosity shaping new hollows in the ground. In these small gestures, you sense how social bonds strengthen through shared tasks and daily rituals. Bird calls descendants of these ancestors drift on the breeze, and you smile at the unbroken thread of community across deep time. You watch as modern herds of deer move in concert through forests, their footsteps echoing similar coordination. In those small animals, you see reflections of dinosaur kinship, mutual vigilance, collective movement, shared rest. You feel the unity of life's strategies echo across species, bound by the need for safety and cooperation. Walking on, you approach a riverbank where the soil has hardened into stone. Here, the footprints are exquisitely preserved, each toe pad, each claw mark sharply defined. A paleontologist might measure the stride's width and depth to estimate speed and weight. You examine these details, closing your eyes and tracing them with your mind's hand. You feel the power that once lifted each foot from the earth, propelled by thigh muscles coiling like springs. Released in a fluid step, the river itself glimmers in morning light, and you taste its moisture on the air, mineral notes and organic detritus from miles upstream. The group paused here to drink, their ability to quench thirst together reinforcing bonds. You imagine their heads lowering in unison, nostrils flaring as they sampled water, tongues flicking to test currents. The window of silence is broken only by low grunts and splashes, a shared ritual of renewal. Upstream, under a canopy of cycads, you find footprints interlaced with those of other species, small hadrosaurs and armored ankylosaurs. The tracks cross but do not overlap, suggesting peaceful coexistence. You reflect on how giant predators and herbivores shared these spaces. Sometimes predators scanning herd tracks without immediate pursuit. Did the group walk together through intertwined paths, each species reading footprints to guide movement? You feel the tapestry of life woven through overlapping rhythms. A gentle breeze stirs the water's surface, and you watch ripples spread outward from a falling leaf. In those concentric circles, you see a metaphor for community, a single action sending waves through many lives. Your own footprint, pressed into mud, sent its initial ripple through the pack, guiding pace and direction. Each step you take ripples outward, connecting you to the living story beneath your toes. You wander back toward the plain as afternoon light deepens. Shadows lengthen and the mist returns like exhalation from the earth. You follow the trackways to where they converge, again melding into fewer sets of deeper prints. The path narrows, focusing into twin lines, as though the group's formation tightened for a narrow corridor between rock outcrops. You step between those ancient lines, feeling the narrowing of space and solidarity's strengthening grasp. The corridor leads to a grove of wakehands, crowned by a rocky escarpment. You climb the smooth stones and pause at the top, where the horizon opens onto wide grasslands. Here, the footprints end abruptly, swallowed by wind-blown silt and shifting dunes. You imagine the group crossing open plains beyond, venturing into sunlit expanses. You feel their confidence in numbers, eyes scanning horizon in unison, each member bolstered by the presence of kin. As twilight falls, you settle beside the escarpment, feeling the cooling rock beneath your hand. You recall footprints of youth, scratches of play, depressions of wrestle etched in mud, now rock, awaiting rediscovery. You sense that community among giants was never fully known, but glimpsed in these silent marks. The mystery remains intact, and you find comfort there, in the question more than the answered above. Stars shimmer in the skies, dark velvet, constellations unchanging as countenance shift below. You watch Orion's belt rise, thinking of 3 aligned footprints, markers guiding travelers across space and time. You feel kinship with those ancient walkers who traced community into the earth. In their strides, you sense the heartbeat of togetherness echoing through every age. Tonight, as you close your eyes beneath the open sky, you carry the rhythm of the pack within you. Each inhalation recalls their silent steps. Each exhalation returns you to your own journey. Community, you understand now, is both question and answer, a mystery woven through footprints and hearts alike. And as the plain hushes under starlight, you feel a new murmur arise, the echo of solitary choices, and the inner debate of hunter or scavenger waiting in the next chapter's quiet debate. You awaken at dusk, a hush settling over the plain like a soft blanket. The golden light fades into lavender, and in that in-between, you remember the question everyone asks. Were you a hunter or a scavenger? You shift your weight, muscles coiling beneath scaled skin, and realize the answer is neither and both. Tonight, under the same stars that watched your ancestors rise, you move with the confidence of one who seizes each opportunity in a world that changes with every season. Your first meal of the evening is a fresh kill. You find it by scent and by sound, the distant crash of breaking bones, the rustle of struggling hide. You approach with silent steps, sinking softly into grass, tail steadying each stride, and witness the end of another creature's story. With careful precision, you clamp your jaws around prized flesh and rip free a thick strip for tearing. Blood warms your mouth, iron sharp on your tongue, and for a moment you are pure force, a nexus of muscle and bone fulfilling the ancient mandate of all living things. Minutes later, the scent of carrion drifts on a cool breezer carcass, too large or too old for smaller scavengers. You pause, head tilting to follow the aroma, and sense a different call, the promise of marrow waiting beneath brittle bone. You pivot, guided by nose and nuance, toward that sour sweetness. At the edge of a dried riverbed, you find the remains of an armored herbivore, ribs splayed like a fan, vertebrae snapped. You lower your head and crunch the bone, feeling the satisfying collapse under bite pressure. You savor marrow's richness, a reward hidden from those lacking your bone-crushing force. In these two acts, hunt and scavenge, you embody the full spectrum of opportunity. You do not shame one over the other. You simply respond to the world's offerings. When prey is abundant, you rely on speed and stealth to overcome living resistance. When scarcity strikes, you turn to what remains its choice, a lesson in adaptability. Hunger is the same hunger, whether it drives pursuit or resourcefulness. Power is the same power, whether it animates a chase or reduces bone to crumbs. You learn that labels matter less than action. Science debates your nature. Some paleontologists point to muscle attachment scars on your skull, evidence of powerful biting suited to live prey. Others highlight wear patterns on your teeth, showing corrosion from dissolved bone mineral, sign of scavenging. They quarrel over ratios of tooth shape and jaw leverage, arguing numbers on a page. But you, walking through dusk's purple haze, feel the truth in your limbs. Survival is neither pure hunt nor pure scavenge, but the fluid balance between both. You drift to a high ridge overlooking the valley, where the air cools and carries echoes of distant thunder. Storm clouds gather, and as lightning arcs across the sky, you recall your ancestors braving similar skies, seeking shelter or hunting in rain-slick hides. You remember how heavy raindrops can mask your approach or wash away scent trails, turning predator into ghost. You crouch beneath an overhanging rock, listening to the hollow patter above, and feel the dual pulse of predator and scavenger in your chest. When the storm passes, you slip down into a moonlit field of ferns. Mists rise from the dew, shrouding the ground in silver. Here, hoofed dinosaurs graze between patches of moonlight and shadow. You watch for the flick of an ear, an indicator of awareness, before lifting your head and exhaling a low rumble that vibrates through the grass. At that sound, a young herbivore lifts its head, nostrils flaring, eyes wide. It snorts and flees in a flurry of movement. You do not pursue. Tonight, you have had your fill. Farther on, you find another meal, leftovers from a predator you've never met. Bones bleached and cracked by sun, cartilage dried to leather. You pick at these scraps, mindful of broken shards that might cut. Under the moon's soft glow, scavenging is almost reverent. You pay respect to the effort that created this feast. You consume slowly, honoring the life that once powered this flesh and the ecosystem that recycles it all. Walking on, you reflect on how each act of feeding writes itself into the world's ledger. Fresh kills leave prints in mud, tracks curving away from the carcass. Scavenged bones bear different marks, teeth sliding along cortical surfaces, scraping away marrow cavities. Both are part of the narrative inscribed in earth and rock. You feel the science yet to come, researchers overturning stones and pages, tracing your every scar to read your story in microfracture patterns and isotopic signatures. You cross a dry creek bed and pause by a splintered limb, half buried in sand. Small tooth marks dot its surface, likely from juvenile relatives learning to feed. You imagine young ones gathering round scraps, practicing their bite, learning life's lessons by guided nibble and parental watch. You sense how your own experience shapes theirs, an unspoken teaching in survival's art. You realize that flexibility in feeding strategies is life's greatest teacher for the next generation. On the far bank, Dondrakes call from reeds. Their plaintive cries echo across water, and you join with a low rumble, a greeting of sorts. They bob and drift back into the thicket, unafraid, trusting in your calm presence. In that trust, you sense a truce between predator and prey, coexistence. In a world where hunger and fear shape every day, you know that tomorrow you might hunt. Tomorrow you might scavenge, but tonight you simply breathe in the cool air. You settle beneath a lone ginkgo-like tree, roots exposed by river erosion. Its broad leaves shimmer in a faint breeze, a roof of living jade. You lie between roots and rock, tail curling around your side. Above, the sky lightens toward dawn, pink and gold streaking clouds. You reflect on the fluidity of your role, apex. Predator, opportunist, custodian of balance. Each feeding choice ripples through the ecosystem, boosting scavengers, culling weak prey, distributing nutrients across the land. In that balance you find peace. You feel the gentle hum of life's interconnected web vibrating beneath you. Plants drawing nutrients from scattered bones, insects breaking down flesh into soil, birds and mammals scavenging small scraps, bacteria returning everything to earth. The cycle continues, unbroken by labels of hunter or scavenger. You are simply a node in a complex tapestry, and your adaptability enriches the whole. Your eyelids grow heavy as dawn settles fully. You sense the night's end approaching and the world stirring, a new herd's gathering, insects buzzing, birds taking wing. You will rest now and rise later to face whatever the morning brings. The thrill of the hunt or the quiet triumph of finding sustenance where others have left none. You realize that ambiguity is your lullaby, and uncertainty sings you to sleep. Tonight, you have been both predator and scavenger, an apex force and a patient gleaner. You have allowed science to debate your nature, but you have acted without hesitation in each moment, guided by hunger and opportunity. You carry these experiences like etched runes in your memory, each choice a note in the grand symphony of survival. And as your breath deepens in sleep's gentle embrace, you sense the earth itself pausing, reading for a storm that will change lands and lives in the next chapter's turn toward darkness and renewal. You awake beneath a sky heavy, with promise clouds gathering at the horizon like a silent congregation. The air tastes of ash and distant heat, carrying a sharp tenth that stirs both awe and unease. Today, the sun will not rise as you've known it. Today, the world tilts toward darkness. You wander from your resting place across familiar plains dotted with cycads and horsetails. Each plant bends under weight of ash settling like dust from a trembling sky. You taste grit on your tongue with every breath, 1,000 tiny particles riding the wind. You lift your head, nostrils flaring, and catch the acrid scent of sulfur. The metallic bite of minerals released by upheaval somewhere beyond hills. A volcano exhales, soft tremors pulse through the ground, measured and unhurried. You sense the slow march of tectonic force, the chamber below filling with molten stone, pressing upward until earth yields. You follow the tremor's direction, each step carrying you toward the source. In your mind, you trace the wave of building. Pressure, the resonance growing in intensity like a drumbeat guiding a dance. Approaching foothills, you emerge into a valley framed by blackened boulders and wind-swept scree. Here, the ash layer grows thicker underfoot, a soft grey carpet, sealing footprints in fresh imprints. You step deliberately, watching each mark. Soon, no life stir but your own. The valley holds its breath, waiting. Then you see it, a silver flash against charcoal sky. The volcano's peak, once a gentle cone, now belches a column of smoke and ash. It climbs like a living plume, blotting the sun, stretching into a mushroom cloud that expands in silent grandeur. Lightning forks within its walls, igniting pockets of superheated air in whispered roars. You feel the charge in your fur and feathers' static hum against skin. You pause at the valley's rim and watch the ash cloud drift across the sun. The sky dulls to copper, then to rust, then to obsidian. Shadows collapse, colors fade. The world contracts into shapes of silhouette and steam. You stand at the edge of twilight and daylight, a realm where time suspends in this half-light. You remember the plains' rhythms, grazing hadrosaurs, scuttling dawn drakes, the slow shuffle of giants walking together. Now all is silent but the rattle of ash on your scales. You lift a foot, letting ash sift through your toes like snow. Each grain tells of upheaval, ancient fire erupting in a moment of creation and destruction. You descend into the ash-choked valley. Trees lie fallen, trunks splintered by pyroclastic blasts. Fern fronds, once lush and green, are draped in grey pall. You brush fingertips over a fern's frond. Its veins stand out in relief, ash forming a crust that preserves pattern. In this fossilizing moment, life and stone blur. The world writes itself into rock. Heat presses against you, like breath on closed eyelids. You stagger toward a rocky overhang. Beneath its shelter, you find other survivors, small mammals burrowed in crevices, insects clinging to sheltered bark, dawn drakes huddled in shadow. You feel the bond of shared refuge, each life seeking hollow against fire's advance. Lightning flashes within the ash plume, illuminating the valley in stroboscopic bursts. You see ghosts of shapes, a hadrosaur's head, a ceratopsian's frill, outlines of beasts fleeing eruption. In the flicker, time folds into layers, present and past, ash-laden present and fossilized future. You feel the weight of witness. This is the moment science will call the KPG boundary, a line etched worldwide. You breathe the choking air, feeling the ashes grit scratch your lungs. Survival demands action. You move slowly toward a distant stream, its waters still clear beneath a layer of floating ash. You lower your muzzle and lap, tasting cold life amid death's residue. Each swallow feels like defiance, a promise to endure. Return of dusk brings cold and calm. Ash settles, muffling sound. You lie beneath the overhang, surrounded by small creatures, united in vulnerability. Warmth seeps through your down and scales. Flickers of life pulse in every breath of the hidden community. Together, you wait for the world to rebalance. In dream's edge you drift, remembering sunlit days when life thrummed in open plains. You carry ash in bones and breath, a charcoal memory of fire's fury. Yet even in darkness, you sense the seed of renewal waiting beneath the crust, a promise that storms pass, that life finds a way. You gather these relics, leaf, bone fragment, eggshell, tooth, and sit beneath a solitary juniper. The air cools as evening falls, scattering gold light through needles. You unpack your finds and lay them before you, a mosaic of time. Each item is a time capsule, containing a preserved moment, a fern in full spring, a juvenile claw, an erupting volcano's ash boreal, a mother's clutch of eggs, a tooth destined for the table of fossil hunters. You close your eyes and let the day's work settle in your mind. You feel the ebb and flow of discovery, the patience required to brush away gossamer layers, the wonder at uncovering each whisper, the quiet satisfaction of piecing together fragments into coherent stories. You admire the synergy of fieldwork and technology, of human curiosity and natural preservation, each reinforcing the other dot in the dimming light. You pack your fossils carefully, ensuring they rest in padded pockets. You rise and follow the trail back toward camp, where headlamps glow like fireflies. Along the way, you imagine the stories these fossils will tell of climate shifts, of ecosystems shifting, of creatures evolving and disappearing. You feel privileged to be their steward, holding moments from epochs lost. Returning to your tent, you arrange the day's discoveries on a table of stone. By headlamp you examine each piece again, your mind weaving threads between them. The fern in ash layers speaks of volcanic episodes. The eggshell fragments nestled beside skin impressions hint at nesting behaviors beneath forest canopies. The tooth and rib callus reveal feeding strategies and healing capacities. Together, these fragments coalesce into a richer tapestry of life's past. You close your field journal and blow out the lamp. In the darkness, only the fossils remain, whispering in stillness. You crawl into your sleeping bag and feel the earth beneath rock and soil that once buried these relics, now cradling you. You breathe deeply, inhaling the night air tinged with mineral dust. In each breath you connect to past and future, guardian of time's fragile keepsakes. In dreams, you brush fingers across fossils in far-flung museums where your discoveries will rest. You see scholars presenting fractal patterns of rib calluses at conferences, children tracing ammonite spirals in textbooks, artists painting splayed skeletons in gallery halls. You wake with quiet joy, knowing that each moment you rescued from oblivion will ripple through minds and hearts across ages. Tonight, you rest not merely on earth, but on layers of time. You carry each fossil's whisper in your bones, a lullaby of deep history guiding you gently toward sleep. You feel the promise of more discoveries, skeletons awaiting exposure, new sites forming under shifting sediments, future scientists listening to whispers you have helped preserve. And as you drift into sleep, you sense not only the echoes of bones, but the stir of living descendants, feathered singers at dawn, ready to guide you into the next chapter's awakening of birdsong and legacy. Birdsong fills your ears. You look up, not back. From feather to flight, from ancient roar to lullaby. Tonight you trace the thread from giant to sparrow, and see the tyrant's gentle descendants. You rest knowing evolution is not loss, but change. You wake to a chorus of melody at dawn notes, bright as dew-dropped petals. The sound swirls above you, drifting through a canopy of branches and twigs. You tilt your head, spotting tiny shapes perched on slender limbs. Songbirds, descendants of giants once crowned in tooth and bone. Their feathers glint in morning light, soft down, contour feathers, primaries that lift them into sky. You stand beneath a flowering magnolia, its large petals unfurling like wide wings. You breathe in the heady scent, sweet and vivid, and feel the world's deep transformation. Here, where once Tyrannosaurus roamed, now sparrows twitter, warblers trill, finches whistle. Each note is a fragment of ancient lineage, a melody carried across ages, from hollow bones and filamentous, down to hollow bones and piston-driven wings. In your mind's eye, you picture a juvenile tyrannosaur, small and feathered, flapping, stubby arms in playful practice. Feathers first emerged for insulation and display soft filaments capturing heat and light. Over eons, those feathers became more complex, branching barbs, interlocking hooks, streamlined veins. They graduated from warmth's cloak to aerodynamic surface. Today's songbirds owe their aerial grace to those first soft plumes. You wander through dappled light, watching a kinglet dart among branches, tiny wings beating faster than you can count. Its heart thumps at a feverish pace, 500 beats per minute, propelling a body no heavier than a handful of stones. You feel your chest swell with admiration as you imagine the energy fueled by a metabolism more akin to a hummingbird's than to any reptile's. Warm blood now courses through feathered veins, a gift from ancestors that once relied on long slivers of down to trap warmth. You follow a path carpeted with fallen blossoms and petals. With each step, you notice fine filaments glimmering in the air dander, from winged children, silent carriers of history. A mourning dove coos above, its soft notes echoing the distant roars of prehistoric giants. In this shift from earth-shaking, Step 2, gentle trill. You see evolution's art, a transformation of power into song. A woodpecker drums on a dead sapling, its beak carving into bark. You listen to the hollow echo, feeling vibrations in your chest like a heartbeat. Once tyrannosaurs used their skulls to sense low-frequency vibrations. Now, these small birds use bone-conducted sound to locate insect larvae beneath wood, the same principle honed for survival. You sense the continuity of function across forms. Branches sway as a chickadee emerges from a moss-lined nest hidden in a hollow trunk. You watch it poke its head out, bright eyes blinking against morning light. It stretches fragile legs and teeters on the nest rim before fluttering to a nearby twig. You recall nesting grounds of tyrannosaurs' shallow scrapes in fern mats where eggs lay warm under a parent's body. Those nests protected young in early Cretaceous forests. Today's nests cradle hatchlings in leafy hollows. Change persists, but the instinct to nurture remains. You step into a rush of breeze carrying the scent of blossoming shrubs, honeysuckle and dogwood. Each fragrance is a signal to pollinators. Come, drink nectar, carry pollen. The same signals likely attracted ancient feathered creatures probing flowers long extinct. You imagine early birds sampling nectar alongside insects, a shared taste that shaped coevolution. On a fallen log slick with moss, A small wren prends its feathers, stucking them neatly, aligning barbs like seams in fabric. You move close, respecting its space, and see how each feather emerges from follicle scars in the skin. Beneath the outer veins lies the downy underlayer, relic of dinosaurian ancestry. In that dual structure, warmth and flight unite. You sense nature's layering foundation and adornment coexisting. A soft rain begins, droplets pattering on leaves and feathers. The birds huddle beneath sheltering branches, shaking water from plumage. You feel raindrops cool against your skin and taste petrichor rising from earth. Rainfall once prompted tyrannosaurs to seek high ground, their massive forms trudging through mud. Now you watch hummingbirds hover in drizzle, wings worry in miniature, drawing water from spider webs to bathe in droplets. The scale changes, but the response to rain remains. Seek comfort, refresh, endure in the distance. You hear a distant colonel's flute-like note, heralding evening, even as dawn breaks. You smile at the cyclical dance of light and dark. The owl's call resonates through damp air, drawing forth creatures of dusk and dawn. You imagine owl-like dinosaurs hooting under moonlit skies, their silent flight guided by asymmetrical ears and facial discs, alive in modern echoes. You wander toward a marsh where reeds sway knee-high. A family of railbirds skitters through rushes, calling softly. You see tiny rails, descendants of giant hunters, repurposing speed for quick flights and secretive paths. They feed on insects stirred by shifting water, each bite a testament to lineage's adaptability. We observe their lives through field studies, marking migrations with tiny bands, learning how ancient patterns persist in modern movements at the water's edge. You see ducks dabbling, appending bodies into reed shadows. They reveal bellies, fat with nutrient seekos of aquatic foraging once practiced by oviraptorosaurs, rummaging for mollusks. Today's waterfowl mirror those ancient habits, probing and sifting, wings flicking water into arcs of light. You feel the river's flow. Beneath you, connecting past and present in unbroken current. A shimmer of gold draws your gaze to the sky. A hawk circles overhead, silhouette against clouds. You recall the tyrannosaurians once claimed the sky's edge indirectly through sensory adaptation rather than flight. Their descendants now claim the firmament with talons and keen eyes. You sense the thrill of watching prey from above, a vantage unreachable by earthbound giants. Emerald moss carpets a fallen trunk. On it, a salamander flits in fugitive colors. You catch its reflection, tiny limbs, moist skin, fragile life. You remember how early amphibians shared Mesozoic forests with dinosaurs, and how some niches once occupied by small reptiles are now home to amphibians and birds. Life's tapestry is woven in overlapping threads, each species a thread connecting epochs. You pause beneath a blossoming cherry tree, petals swirling like pink snow. You reach out, catching a few in your palm, and feel their softness fragile as fossil leaves. You send them drifting into the breeze, watching them scatter across the sky. Each petal becomes a wingless dancer, its journey unpredictable. You realize evolution's change is like these petals, delicate, drifting, shaping new patterns in distant places. Beneath the cherry shade, you settle on a carpet of grass and call to mind the tyrant's roar once echoing across plains, now silent. In its place, birdsong fills your ears. You raise your face to the sky, eyes tracing feathered forms against clouds. You feel the line drawn from ancestor to descendant, bone to feather, roar to song, dominion to gentleness. Tonight, as you will, rest on dewless grass. You carry this vision. Evolution is not loss, but transformation. You honor the tyrant's legacy in every flutter, every chirp, every dawn chorus. You sense that life's melody continues, composed in new keys yet echoing old harmonies. You close your eyes and let the birdsong wash over you, a living quilt woven from warbles, trills, and whistles. Each melody is an aria of survival, a testament to beaks and feathers refined over millions of years. In that symphony, you hear the echoes of ancient hearts beating within bone, of dawn drakes flitting through fern groves, of the first tentative flaps of proto-wings. You rise and wander to a quiet grove where light filters in emerald shafts. On a low branch, a titmouse prints tugging at molted feathers and arranging each barb with precision. You watch its ritual, imagining juvenile tyrannosaurs preening their downy coats beneath parental watch. Such grooming not only maintained insulation but served social bonds, reinforcing trust through gentle contact. In each preen, you sense continuity. Grooming remains a gesture of care across epochs. A soft breeze stirs as you continue along a winding path. Leaves drift down in spirals, each one a silent reminder of change's gentle passage. You catch one mid-fall, study its veins and texture, and see parallels to feather shafts branching into barbs. The same fractal patterns knit leaf and plume, life and legacy. You tuck the leaf into your junilar, moment preserved like fossils, pressed into stone. Ahead, you discover a fallen log hollowed into a natural tunnel. Inside, faint light reveals a trove of insects, beetles, millipedes, and worms wriggling in decaying wood. You lie at the entrance and watch them forage, each minute movement a microcosm of ecosystem recycling. Ancient tyrannosaur ancestors avoided such niches, yet their bone-crushing descendants inadvertently fed these decomposers by leaving scraps and excrement. You grasp the interconnected web, giants and microbes, predator and scavenger, present and past. Emerging into a clearing, you find a still pond holding mirror reflections of sky and forest. You kneel, letting your fingertips skim water, rippling reflections. A flash of movement catches your agile dragonfly, its iridescent wings refracting sunlight. It hovers, then darts low, skimming the surface to deposit eggs. In its flight, you see the first flapping of feathered wings magnified 1,000-fold, from early gliders to aerial acrobats dancing on currents. You rest on soft grass at the pond's edge, leaning back against a mossy stone. Close your eyes and listen to the forest's lullaby, the cricket's steady pulse, the croak of frogs hidden in reeds, the rustle of small mammals stirring in leaf litter. Above, the feathered descendants roost in branches, tucked in for nights. Hush, their lullabies replace the thunderous roars of tyrant lizards. Yet the world remains equally alive, equally vibrant. In the growing dusk, you feel your own pulse calm. You reflect on the great arc of lineage, how coarse scales evolved into down, how down gave way to flight feathers, how flight opened new realms of exploration. You think of Tyrannosaurus's might and today's sparrow's song to extremes, of the same evolutionary continuum. In that thought, you find solace. Power transforms into grace, predation into melody, earthbound dominion into feathered freedom. Night deepens, and fireflies emerge, pulsing in slow Morse code. You watch their pale lanterns flicker, unburdened by gravity, and imagine tiny insects carrying messages across forest floors. In these soft lights, you see the final stanza of transformation, from ground-shaking giants to airborne lights, from crushing jaws to tender tongues tasting nectar. You feel the full circle of life's inventive dance. You rise and walk beneath the dark canopy, following a path lit by bioluminescent mushrooms, ghostly orbs glowing among roots. Their light reveals two small hatchlings, fledglings of the nightjar. Family, crouched on the ground. They stare at you with wide eyes, before flicking wings and erupting into silent flight. In their silent departure, you sense the final breath of connection. The ancient lizards whisper through every feathered flap. You slow to watch them vanish into darkness, their silhouettes merging with starlit limbs. You take a deep breath of cool night air and savor the hushed triumph of change. Evolution is not a eulogy, but a living poem composed in chapters of adaptation and poetry. You feel the kinship between your breath and every exhalation of life that preceded you. Under the moon's quiet gaze, you settle once more on the grass. Stars wheel overhead, reminding you of scales beyond scale cells, beyond cells, generations upon generations. You clasp your hands and close your eyes, feeling gratitude for the lineage you inhabit. From ancient roar to lullaby, the thread of life weaves through you, carrying memories of footfalls, feathers, and flight. Tonight, you rest in the embrace of that tapestry. You trust in life's capacity to change without forgetting to renew. Without erasing, you cradle this truth like a feathered nest, soft and resilient. Rocking gently as you drift toward dreams, you settle into the soft hush of night, the earth beneath you cool and steady. Above, the sky opens, wide a velvet dome studded with silent lights. Each star a breathing spark in the dark. You find yourself recalling footsteps that once shook these very plains. In your mind's eye, you see enormous tracks pressed into mud, toes splayed like ancient calligraphy. Those imprints last beyond flesh, echoing a presence carried in stone. You inhale slowly, letting starlight fill your chest, feeling the vast expanse cradle your thoughts. In this stillness, you picture the tyrant's skull laid bare in museum halls, massive yet elegant, its curves framed by delicate arches of bone. You remember tracing your fingers across its surface, marveling at the honeycomb of fenestrine that lightened weight and muffled echoes. That skull once held a mind more complex than myth, a creature attuned to scent and vibration, reading its world in layers of sensory truth. Now, only the shell remains, sterling white under display lights, whispering secrets in silent testimony. You press your palm to the ground, imagining the pulse of life that once flowed through giant blood vessels deep in that body. You sense how bone absorbed shocks and grew strong through marrow's quiet work. In each breath, you feel an ancestral echo, a lineage running from those colossal hearts to the steady rhythm beating within your own ribs. Extinction may still the footfalls, but it cannot silence the pulse carried in shared bloodlines. A gentle breeze stirs grass and fern, making waves of shadow across the night. You follow the motion with your gaze, recalling how tyrannosaurs sweeping for balance, head low and steady, each step measured and sure. You sense their cadence in your own breathing, inhaling as they exhaled, life exchanging across unfathomable years. In dream and waking, you carry that march within you, the silent drum of survival echoing beyond disappearance. Far off, an owl calls a hoot, soft as moss. You lean forward, listening to the low frequency vibrating through leaves. That call, once unheard by tyrannosaurs, now fills the air in nocturnal reply. Owls, kin of dinosaurs, through the branches of the tree of life, bear the gift of night vision and silent flight. In their whispering hoots, you hear a continuity, feathers shaped for stealth in moonlight, senses tuned to what prowled in darkness. The tyrant's legacy lives in each feathered hunter gliding through night. You rise to your knees and look around. The world has rebounded since the final gasp of the Cretaceous. Forests reclaim plains once denuded by ash and tide. Rivers carve new canyons through granite. Mountains rise and fall in slow convulsions. Species you know populate every niche once held by titan bones. Yet within this abundance, the tyrant's story endures in fragments. A tooth cast in amber, a footprint bored into limestone, a fragment of skin pressed to shale. Each is a shard of memory, a bullet point in nature's long narrative. Underfoot you find a small rock, smoothed by water and worn by time. You hold it and imagine it once part of a muddy bank where an adult Tyrannosaurus dipped its